Remember when kids used to ride their bikes until the streetlights flickered on? Or when the only screen time was in front of a fuzzy TV? The 1970s were a different world, where kids played outside all day, drank from the garden hose, and built forts from anything they could find. Today, those simple yet unforgettable moments seem to have vanished, replaced by digital distractions. So let's take a step back in time and explore the things kids from the 70s experienced. Things that today's generation might never fully understand or appreciate. Playing outside until dark, without supervision. In the 1970s, it wasn't uncommon for kids to leave the house after breakfast and not return until dinner. Parents didn't keep track of their every move, and the rule was simple: be back before the streetlights come on. Kids had more freedom to explore, bike through the neighborhood, or head to the local park without needing constant supervision. Nowadays, the idea of letting kids roam freely is met with caution, and many children spend more time indoors. Making collect calls on payphones. Before the age of cell phones, if you needed to call home while you were out, you'd head to the nearest payphone and make a collect call. The iconic "will you accept the charges from" was a familiar sound to parents. Collect calls may seem bizarre to kids today, who can contact their parents instantly with a swipe of a finger, but in the 70s, this was a lifeline when you were far from home and out of change. Recording mixtapes on cassette. The 70s were the golden age of mixtapes, and making one was an art form. Kids would sit by the radio with a blank cassette tape ready, waiting for their favorite song to come on so they could hit record. There was no streaming service to create instant playlists. Crafting the perfect mixtape for a friend or a crush took time, patience, and timing. Today, the cassette tape has become a relic, replaced by digital playlists, riding in the back of pickup trucks. Safety standards were different in the 70s, and one of the most nostalgic memories for many kids was riding in the back of a pickup truck, wind blowing through their hair, on the way to a family gathering, or just cruising around town. While fun at the time, this practice has long been outlawed due to safety concerns, but it remains a fond memory for those who experienced it, using encyclopedias for school reports. Long before the internet put vast amounts of information at our fingertips, kids in the 70s had to rely on encyclopedias for research. The sight of a full encyclopedia set on a bookshelf was common in many homes, and kids would pull out the correct volume to gather information for a school project. These bulky books have since been replaced by search engines and Wikipedia, making research a far quicker process. Playing with lawn darts, jarts. Lawn darts, or jarts, were a popular backyard game for many families in the 70s. The game involved tossing heavy metal tipped darts toward a target on the ground. Unfortunately, due to their dangerous design, they were responsible for many injuries and were eventually banned. Though kids today have plenty of safer outdoor games, lawn darts hold a special, if slightly dangerous, place in the hearts of 70s kids. Carrying a metal lunchbox with your favorite TV show character. Lunchboxes were more than just a way to carry your sandwich and apple to school. They were a statement of your personality. Kids in the 70s had a variety of metal lunchboxes featuring popular TV shows like The Brady Bunch or The $6 Million Man. Complete with a matching thermos, these lunchboxes were both practical and a way to showcase your favorite characters. Today, most lunchboxes are made from safer materials like plastic or cloth and don't quite have the same flair. Playing board games without screens. Family game night in the 70s involved classics like Monopoly, Clue, or The Game of Life, all without electronic assistance. Kids would gather around the kitchen table and spend hours playing these games, relying on dice, cards, and paper money. Nowadays, many board games have been adapted into digital versions, or kids opt for video games instead. While those digital experiences are fun, they lack the tactile and social experience of the classic board game nights. Wearing bell-bottom jeans and platform shoes. Fashion in the 70s was bold, and kids were no exception to the trends. Bell-bottom jeans and platform shoes were all the rage, and kids proudly sported these funky styles as they went about their day. Though fashion trends come and go, these iconic looks haven't made a full comeback, and it's hard to imagine today's youth rocking platform shoes to school. Writing letters and pen pals. Before texting or social media, kids kept in touch with friends and relatives through handwritten letters. Having a pen pal, either from another state or country, was a common and exciting hobby for many kids in the 70s. The thrill of receiving a letter in the mail was unmatched, and kids would eagerly wait for their pen pal's response. This art of letter writing has mostly faded, replaced by instant messaging and emails. Waiting for Saturday morning cartoons. Kids in the 1970s had to be patient when it came to their favorite shows. Unlike today's streaming services, which offer unlimited access to cartoons, kids had to wait for Saturday mornings to watch classics like Scooby-Doo, The Flintstones, and Super Friends. There were no replays, so if you missed an episode, you had to wait until the reruns, if they ever came, using a Viewmaster for 3D images. Before the days of virtual reality and sophisticated 3D movies, kids in the 70s had the Viewmaster. This toy allowed you to see 3D images of everything from popular cartoons to national landmarks by inserting special reels. It was a simple form of entertainment, but magical to see flat images come to life in 3D. Today, this kind of novelty has been replaced by more immersive and interactive technology, walking or biking to school alone. In the 70s, it was common for kids to walk or ride their bikes to school without adult supervision. The roads weren't as congested with traffic, and there was a stronger sense of community, so parents trusted their kids to get to school safely. Today, with increased concerns about safety and more organized transportation, this is far less common. Using a typewriter for schoolwork. Personal computers were still in their infancy in the 1970s, so kids learned how to type on a typewriter. Whether it was a school report or a letter, using a typewriter required precision because mistakes weren't easily fixed. A bottle of whiteout was a necessity. Today, kids can edit on digital devices with ease, making the typewriter seem like an ancient tool. Blowing up balloons for water fights. In the summertime, kids in the 70s loved having water balloon fights to cool down. They would spend ages filling up colorful balloons at the kitchen sink, tying them up, and then dashing outside to launch them at their friends. While water balloon fights still exist, there are now modern gadgets like water guns and pre-filled balloon packs that make this activity far easier than it used to be. Playing Pong on early game consoles. Pong was one of the first video games, and it was revolutionary for kids in the 70s. This simple tennis-like game, played on black and white screens, was as basic as it gets, but it laid the foundation for the video game industry we know today. Kids today have a world of realistic and complex games at their fingertips, making Pong seem incredibly primitive. Collecting green stamps? Kids often help their parents collect S and H green stamps, which were given out at supermarkets and gas stations. Families would save these stamps in booklets and redeem them for household items, toys, or even bicycles. It was a fun way to feel part of the shopping process. Today, loyalty programs still exist, but the physical stamp collecting and booklet filling experience has mostly disappeared. Skateboarding in the driveway. The skateboard craze took off in the 70s, and kids everywhere would practice tricks in their driveways or on the sidewalks. Skateboards in the 70s were simpler than the modern versions, often with clay wheels that didn't provide the smoothest ride. While skateboarding is still popular today, the boards and techniques have evolved into more extreme sports, with skate parks offering ramps and other features that weren't around in the 1970s. Building forts in the woods. Many kids in the 70s spent hours in nearby woods or fields, building forts out of sticks, logs, and whatever materials they could find. These secret hideaways were their domain, free from the eyes of adults. Kids would make up stories, play games, and just enjoy the outdoors. With urban expansion and less emphasis on unstructured play, this kind of imaginative outdoor activity has become rare, reading comic books under the covers with a flashlight. Before tablets and ebooks, kids would sneak comic books under their covers at night, reading by flashlight after their parents told them to go to sleep. Characters like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman fueled their imaginations. Though comics are still popular today, kids have more access to digital forms of entertainment, and sneaking a comic under the covers has mostly been replaced by sneaking a look at their phones. Carrying a boombox around. Before MP3 players or smartphones, kids in the 1970s would carry large boomboxes around to blast their favorite music. Whether hanging out with friends at the park or by the pool, these portable radios and cassette players were a common sight. People would even show off their music collections and the power of their boombox. Today, compact wireless speakers or headphones have made boomboxes a relic of the past, using roller skates with metal wheels. Roller skating was a hugely popular activity in the 70s, and many kids would strap on their metal-wheeled skates and cruise down the sidewalk or head to the local roller rink. These skates were often clunky compared to modern versions, but provided endless hours of fun. With the rise of inline skates and other modern alternatives, classic metal wheel skates have largely disappeared, talking on the home phone for hours. In the days before cell phones, if kids wanted to talk to their friends, they'd have to use the home phone. Conversations sometimes went on for hours, and if you were lucky, you'd have your own phone in your bedroom. However, many had to chat in the kitchen or living room, much to the annoyance of parents or siblings. Nowadays, with the rise of texting and social media, long landline phone calls have become rare. Getting film developed from a camera. In the 70s, photography wasn't instant. Kids who had a camera had to wait days or even weeks to see the photos they took, as film had to be developed. They'd drop off rolls of film at the local drugstore or a photo lab, eager to see if any of the pictures turned out well. The suspense and excitement of getting photos developed are almost lost today, with digital cameras and smartphones offering instant results. Playing in the street with friends. Neighborhood streets were the playgrounds for kids in the 1970s. They'd play games like kickball, stickball, or hide and seek right in the middle of the road, with the occasional car coming through being the only thing that made them pause. They'd quickly scatter when a car approached, shouting, "Car!" and resume the game as soon as it passed. Today, with more traffic and organized sports, kids are less likely to use the street as their main hangout. Childhood in the 1970s was a unique experience, filled with activities and traditions that today's kids may never know. While times have changed, the memories of these experiences remain vivid for those who lived through them. Though we've gained many conveniences in the modern world, the simple, unstructured freedom of being a kid in the 70s is something truly special to remember.